What's going on, Spurs Nation? It's been a little while, but let's talk Spurs basketball. So, what I'm going to dive into here in this episode is talking about, of course, Wembanyama and seeing how, we're all seeing this for the first time. We're all seeing the Spurs team play together. And it's very interesting because no one outside of that practice gym, the players, the coaches, the management staff, the janitors, right, the custodians, anyone who's working in that facility and at the Rock at La Cantera, the new practice facility, no one besides them knew what this team is going to look like. I think we all have an idea that Victor Wembanyama does insane things, and that is absolutely true. I think in this first two preseason games, we're seeing that the hype is real. We're seeing him do on a nightly basis things that we've never seen before. I haven't had my mouth drop the way it's dropped like in these past two preseason games, especially this last one versus the Miami Heat. They were going against a depleted Miami Heat team, but at the same time, ultra impressive in what we saw. We're going to start this off by talking about Wembanyama, a lot of initial impressions and what he's doing out there on the court, and seeing if we can contextualize this in the game of basketball. It's very hard to do. Everything that we're seeing is very novel. It's very fresh. It's something that we've never seen, right? Just he's always doing those type of things. And then we're going to talk about what the team looks like playing with Victor Wembanyama, because that is one of the most interesting questions about this season, about the future of the Spurs, is what type of team needs to be put around Wembanyama? Is it conventional? Is it more experimental? What type of roster combinations are we looking at to really catapult the potential of this team, right? And we know that Wembanyama, he does that by himself, but amplifying him with the surrounding cast is the main goal, I think, of this season, and figuring that out. So first off, Wembanyama, he's doing everything, guys. He's doing things that we've never seen, and you've heard this a bunch of times. He's unreal, right? He's shooting the ball like mid-range. He's pulling up from three. He's coming off dribble handoffs. He's taking Euro steps, finishing at the basket with a Euro step from the 3-point line, just no problem finishing. If we get the ball anywhere near him around the basket, more likely than not, there's no one to contest. He gets that ball up to chest level and beyond. There's no one in this airspace. There's just like nobody up here. It's like everyone's just down here playing. You see these little hands come up and try to swipe the ball, and he's just doing his own thing, and it's amazing. It's unreal, right? And so we're seeing that. I think the main takeaway so far in these first two games is that defensively he's on the perimeter and he's roaming around, and he's not doing traditional big man things. We're not seeing him just, sit in the paint, defend the rim run. Maybe they draw up some plays for him to get the ball on the perimeter to maybe get him in some spots. We're seeing none of that. So anything that he does defensively, it comes from a rotation. It comes from being out there and being long at the perimeter. And that's the main takeaway so far for me with this unit, and especially in this second game, is seeing how much havoc he creates by being on the perimeter. First off, he's just in everyone's passing lanes. His arms are up and he's just taking up so much space. And then other than that, when we do create turnovers, this is the most intriguing part, I think, of what we're seeing here, is that we are really going to put that pressure on the perimeter, on the defensive end, high at the 3-point line and midcourt and beyond. So, how the game has kind of evolved from players trying to get to the basket to players trying to be open around the perimeter so they can make shots. Well, we're starting to see that we're putting Wembanyama in that main problem spot and seeing how he can affect those situations. And he's doing a fantastic job of just taking up space. He's offering help when he can. He's getting his hand on the ball, digging out steals, things like that. But him being on the perimeter is unleashing the pace. The pace is unbelievable. We're getting stops or creating turnovers, and Wembanyama is already halfway down the floor. He's already halfway down the floor at the half-court line, and the break is off and running. So we're seeing the Spurs do a lot of these look-ahead passes, trying to catch him running to the basket, and I think that's very smart. And we're starting to see some turnovers with the players doing that. We've seen Sochan have a couple turnovers, Tre Jones have a couple turnovers with those long outlet passes. And those outlet passes, usually as a coach, you're like, don't do those, don't make those long, risky passes. Like just bring up the ball. But in this world that we live in with Wembanyama, we need to be good at that. That needs to be a skill. There was a joke on a podcast earlier. I think it was the Mismatch. I don't know, or if it was the Hoop Collective. I'm not sure, but they were talking about acquiring Kevin Love. It's like, yes, dude, acquire Kevin Love type of player skill set to just have that outlet pass, because they're going to be there all the time. Just getting that ball out. Wembanyama's already out there, or he's coming on the break. And if you catch him on a 3-on-2, on a 2-on-1, it's bucket time. So defensively, the pressure that we're able to put on these guys is insane. It's not at the rim, and we are getting some fantastic blocks out of him and things like that. But where this game is mostly played these days is on the perimeter, and he's able to just cause havoc. So that's a tip to the coaching staff, a nod to the coaching staff for actually being creative in that way and feeling like, you know what, there's more opportunity for him to be disrupting the perimeter offense for the other team. And we'll talk about who steps into that center spot for rim protection here in a little while, but we're seeing him do unreal things that only real hoopers with the ultimate green light get to do. We saw him come down in transition, catch one dribble, fadeaway jump shot, buckets. We saw them run maybe one set play for Wembanyama to bring him around to the mid wing, kind of where Tim Duncan used to like to catch, turn and face, and hit that shot. We saw Wemby hit that one. We're just seeing him do too much, man. We're seeing him do unreal stuff, like his ball handling, not just getting by defenders, but there was a possession or two where he had to bring up the ball and he had a defender on him basically the whole time, bringing up the ball, and he was just poised right here, boom, body, ball, man, right? He was able to bring it up, handle the defense, give it off, and then go and do other things. So the skill set is unreal. It's just unreal. It's going to be an amazing time for the San Antonio Spurs fans and the San Antonio organization to see this guy do things on a nightly basis that just blow your mind. Now, all that being said, let's talk about the roster. Let's talk about how this roster can shake out now that we've seen Wembanyama. And I think before in my previous video, it was like an early offseason video, and I was talking about Tre Jones being important, Tre Jones being the only true point guard on the team, and how Pop and them really don't like to let that go. You know, they usually always have 2 or 3 point guards on the team. But this year, because he can handle, and they've been developing, working with Sochan on his ball handling skills, and we'll talk about him in a little while. And Devin Vassell, you know, being poised to have a breakout season for a couple different reasons. There's opportunity there to not need a traditional point guard. And one of the things that we're seeing Wembanyama do is create for himself, get all these open shots in the flow of the game. And that's something that Pop had said. And I think it was after this Miami game. He's like, we're not drawing up many plays for him. He's coming down and he's being aggressive, and we're playing fast, we're playing up tempo, and he's getting a lot of looks on just real basic actions, you know, within the team's, you know, ball movement and things like that. So there are going to be some times where we draw up a play to get him on the block, to get him on the elbow, to get him a dribble handoff, whatever it is. But most of his opportunities he creates himself. It's unreal. And so there's not a lot of offense to initiate. You know, for the past 2 or 3 seasons, this is one of my main takeaways too, is that it's so easy to score. It's so easy to score now. And in the past few years, it's been unbelievable hard to get open shots, to generate open shots, and then to finish open shots. You know, like we had to sacrifice our guys in Lonnie and Derek and DeJounte and all these guys that we gave plenty of opportunity to produce. And y'all know how hard it was just to hit shots, even if they were open for the past 2 years. So now that's kind of flipped. We're getting a lot of easy baskets through Wembanyama. And you know, let's just go down the line and who's been starting, who's going to start. We know that Devin Vassell is that guy, and Devin Vassell, guys, he's been ready since year one. I've been doing film rooms on him since year one. Defensively, he's been ready since year one, but he had to take a back seat, learn through Rudy Gay, learn through Patty Mills, learn through all these guys that were in front of him in order for him to actually kind of be ready for this opportunity, right? So now he's ready. Defensively, he's been ready, but now offensively, he's been growing every single year. And that's just going to take another leap this year. He averaged 18 points last year. Expect 24 to 26 this year. Devin Vassell is getting more wide open shots than he ever has in his entire life. And he's been preparing his whole life to make tough shots, to make big shots, to make shots where the defense is focused on you and all that stuff. And so far, man, what we've seen is that he's going to get anything he wants. Wembanyama, if him and Wembanyama develop a 2-man pick and roll game where they can really read the defense to capitalize on each other and make each other better, it's going to be unfreaking believable, guys. Unfreaking believable. Devin Vassell's going to have so many one-on-one opportunities, wide open kickouts. How many times do we see Devin Vassell knock down a wide open 3 where he has a guy closing out to him, 10 feet away, and he's never seen looks this open. And I think that's something that he might have said also after the Miami game was like, he's getting a lot of open shots. And Victor's going to do that for everybody. But to see these two guys form a bond, a connection, a chemistry, a rapport with each other on how to elevate each other in a 2-man game is going to be probably one of the bigger weapons for the Spurs moving forward for the next I don't know how many years, right? So Devin Vassell is going to feast. Expect him to be able to do more now in other areas like defensively. I think last year and the year before, maybe even, like, he was there being a great help defender, and the team really needed him. Now it's like those opportunities kind of go down a lot because we're making a lot of open shots. We're not turning the ball over and missing a lot of open shots and giving the defense and the other team a chance on a fast break. A lot of those baskets have gone down a notch. So Devin Vassell gets to really dig into the defensive end, and he's more than capable of being an all NBA defender. I mean, I'm saying that right now. I've said it, he's been good for a long time. He's capable with the body he has now, and with his IQ that he's had since day one. He's poised to have not just a breakout offensive season, but maybe even an All NBA defense if season, second team All NBA, something like that, just depending on how the Spurs do as a team. Okay, so now we talked about Wemby and Devin Vassell. Let's talk about Sochan. Those three are your big three. Those are our big three moving forward. And Sochan, let's talk about what he's been doing well, some things he needs to improve on. I was very happy to see him back in the lineup. I wish he played against OKC. I bet you when Chet Holmgren had thrown up his guns, Sochan might have had something to say about that. Um, he's the enforcer, and you can tell that he understands the pace that we're about to start playing with. And against Miami, every time he caught the ball on the break with an advantage, he was heading to the rim, aggressive to just finish at the rim, right? And he's going to be able to blow by guys, especially in a half court when they're focusing on Wembanyama, kicking out to Devin. Here's your hard closeout. Swing to Sochan, and he gets to catch and rip and go to the basket. He's going to have a lot of opportunities. I know that they've been developing his shot. That's not something that we'll probably see too much of this season, just because the need isn't going to really be there. Depending, and we're talking about the starting lineup specifically. Maybe he'll need to shoot more in different lineups and things like that. But his shot does look fine. His free throw looks great. Now let's talk about him as a point guard, right? Because I think Jeremy Sochan as a point guard is something that we experimented with last season, giving him the opportunity to grow, make mistakes. I think that's when Tre Jones was out. But this starting lineup, like I've been saying, it kind of doesn't really need a traditional point guard. And instead of that, we get to get big, right? We get to get athletic. We got to think about impact. How much impact can we generate in the starting lineup? And all Sochan has to do is sometimes bring up the ball and not turn it over. Initiate the first pass of the offense, get out of the way, things like that. Let the actions play out. And I'm pretty sure the coaching staff is going to try to make it simple on him if indeed he is a starting point guard. Because so far this throughout all this time, I'm thinking Keldon Johnson's probably the one that's going to need to sit down on the bench. And he just did that great one-on-one interview with Manu Ginobili, and they had a great discussion about sacrifice and what it took to become champions and to become gold medalists and all that stuff. And so it was a real kind of like nod of the hat to, hey, I think Keldon might be that new sixth man. We already inked him for a few more years. He's locked in. If he doesn't like it, well, then that's just tough. But Keldon doesn't have that attitude. But so I was kind of even feeling better about that idea of him being the new sixth man for the team. But if we're not starting Tre Jones, he can fit right into that starting lineup. We let Jeremy Sochan handle ball. We let Devin Vassell handle the ball, and Wembanyama, because he's shown it already. So the opportunity to have all those guys in the starting lineup is there. And it just depends on if the Spurs are willing to bring Tre Jones off the bench. When asked, Pop, after the Miami game, someone from the media asked him, is this the role that you can see Tre Jones being in? And Pop didn't answer the question, just gave a lot of props to Tre Jones, was just complimenting his character, his leadership, his progression, his development, and what he brings to the team. And that's Pop never giving a bad answer about one of his players. Now, from my perspective, seeing Tre Jones come off the bench in this last game might have been one of the best performances I've seen out of Tre in a long time. I mean, defensively, he was getting steals. He was ripping the ball away from people. He had a really nice finish at the rim, and he just looked more comfortable and more impactful. Like he looked like he had a bigger role than just being a solid traditional point guard, finding the open man, hitting your reads, setting up the offense, and all that type of stuff. He had that insane lob to Wembanyama, just another unreal thing that we're seeing where Wembanyama has to bring up the ball, right? Talk about his point guard skills. He has to bring up the rock, gives it to Tre Jones, immediately cuts, and Tre Jones just lets it fly, and he takes off from like the free throw line to catch that ball and puts it in the basket. Oh my God, right? It's just unreal. But back to Tre Jones. Uh, he's built obviously to be a solid backup point guard. To be his size in the NBA, you have to be an outstanding shooter. And usually those guys aren't great defenders. And he's kind of the opposite. He's a great defender at his height and at his size. And I've been promoting that too for a year or two, how he's just always up for the challenge, never backs down from a challenge. If he has to post up and guard a big guy, he's going to do that hard. He's going to make it tough for the other players. So he doesn't have that offensive output. And if we're talking about just impact in that starting unit, I think removing him from it, and because of the supplement that we do have with ball handling, um, his role, like he can have another great career season coming off the bench, just kind of like his brother did for a few years coming off the bench for Morant in Memphis, and now he's his own starting point guard in Washington. Tre can have a similar route if he does end up wanting to take that opportunity down the road, but I think if we can keep him around, he's like our new Patty Mills, our new Corey Joseph, these guys that are just with us for a long time, our new George Hill, right? A guy that's with us for a long time as that backup point guard who can step into that starting lineup as soon as one of those players goes down, right? And I think that having that is more valuable than having him in the starting lineup. It's like it's night and day. Like he's ultra valuable coming off the bench, and as a starter, the impact kind of that starting unit goes down a little bit. Even though the turnovers will get cleaned up a little bit, you're missing out on a lot by playing and experimenting with that. So Devin Vassell, really quick, I want to see him be the point guard. I want to see him and Sochan kind of split those duties, but Devin's such a scorer, such a great scorer. It's kind of like the Devin Vassell. I mean, it's kind of like the Devin Booker, Bradley Beal situation in Phoenix. Both of those guys are traditional two guards that can score the ball, but they're going to have on-ball responsibilities. And I feel like Devin, if we put the ball in Devin's hands, like half the time, and being as open as he's going to be and be able to create the way he's going to be able to create. We saw him become a better passer last season, I believe, and that's only going to get better, right? So I want to see Devin have the ball more in his hands, right? So that leaves one more spot in the starting lineup, and that's either going to be Zach Collins, who I have no problem starting with, or Charles Bassey, who in my last video, the one that did really well, right, in the summer, one of the main things I talked about was like I really want to see Wembanyama and Bassey play together. There's just something about that combination, the combination of skill sets between them two, that might be interesting. And we did get to see it against Miami, and I loved it. I loved it. I love Bassey being a rim protector to start the game, a finisher to start the game, a rebounder to start the game. And, if we can get Keldon Johnson in that starting lineup to be a defender / scorer, shooter to spread the floor, you got Jeremy Sochan, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Victor Wembanyama, and Charles Bassey as your starting five guys. That's huge. That's huge. I mean, we're not small at all. We're getting rebound after putback after tip, and we're out. And while we're pushing that pace because we can now turn defense into offense, we're able to finish. If it's Bassey on the break, if it's Keldon on the break, if it's Sochan on the break, if it's Wembanyama on the break, it's like, guys, we're getting easy layups for the first time like in 2 or 3 seasons, right? So the potential, the impact potential of Charles Bassey goes through the roof. I mean, he's developing as a passer. He's a gritty player. He can add a lot to that unit that it needs more intangibles than it does firepower. I think with Wembanyama, he's resetting the table. He's creating a new wrinkle in the game of basketball. He's creating something new, and that's very special. And in that new, we're seeing, okay, we don't need a traditional point guard. Okay, we're a lot faster. We need better finishing on the perimeter. We do need someone to just protect the rim in case he's not there. And you would rather have Bassey doing that than Zach Collins. Now, if they're rotating all year at that center spot, that's great because Zach Collins brings a lot to the table too. I mean, unbelievably smart, high IQ, tough as nails. But we saw, Chet Holmgren kind of have his way with Zach Collins, and I don't want to see that kind of continue. So to me, I'd rather have Zach finish games and Charles Bassey start games. So I really like that lineup that we saw. Substitute Keldon Johnson in for Chetty Osman, who played very well too. And that starting lineup, guys, it's scary. That's scary for the other team. They're huge. They're huge, and they can shoot, and they can play make. and you got Wembanyama doing unbelievable things. So to finish this up, let me just give a couple thoughts of on the guys coming off the bench. In this starting lineup, I really like the bench unit being Tre Jones, Zach Collins, Malachi Branham, heavy. Those are the three guys that are getting heavy minutes coming off the bench. And then we'll just see how the rest of it plays out and how Blake Wesley turns into a player. We saw Chetty Osman can come in right away and provide something there at small forward. We're seeing not really a lot of Devontae Graham, not a lot of Doug McDermott, not a lot of some of these other guys that are on the bench. We're not seeing a lot out of them yet. Sudoku, CD, right? CD, I think that's how you say his name, Sudoku. He's a rookie that will be up and down from Austin. So very interesting to see how this plays out with the bench and all that. But that starting lineup is going to, I mean, everyone's asking about it. Everyone's asking Pop and them every day, every media practice, every post game. Is this something we can expect to see? And there really hasn't been a solid answer. And I think that's because Keldon Johnson hasn't played yet. And Keldon Johnson's finally going to get in the game tonight against Houston. But then who's not in the starting lineup? Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, right, are not going to play. So we're going to get to see probably a Tre Jones, Keldon, Sochan. I don't know if Sochan's playing, and then Zach Collins, and seeing that group without Wemby play out. And we'll see a lot of guys get more minutes, and that'll help shape out the roster. But your top 8 guys are those starting 5 guys: Zach Collins, Tre Jones, and Malachi Branham. And Malachi, dude, I mean, I'm just so excited for Malachi, dude. Guy's a bucket. He's defensively getting better every single game, getting more vocal. You can see him talking to players, and he's automatic, like on the offensive end. So we haven't had a guy be so decisive like that and be able to put the ball in the hole in a long time. Like DeMar, I remember I did a film room on Malachi Branham's rookie season, and I called him DeMar Light. He's not as good as DeMar from the mid range, but he can shoot better from 3 than DeMar can. And I think we've been seeing that play out for the past 2 years. It's like you get Malachi off a one dribble pull up, being chased off the 3-point line. He blows by his defender. One dribble, pull up. 2 dribbles, pull up, bucket. It's like that's what we wanted Lonnie to be able to do forever, but Lonnie was too indecisive with his game. And not to be too hard on Lonnie, but it's true. So we're seeing Malachi Branham be able to do a lot of special things as well, and he can play point too a lot. So that's another look if you want to get him as a point as another guard in that starting lineup. So just a lot of amazing things. Fantastic for the city of San Antonio. Fantastic for the fans. We know that season ticket sales went up crazy. Traffic went up 3,000%. I mean, the whole city is blessed. Is what a blessed opportune time to be a Spurs fan and to be just a member of the San Antonio community, Austin community, South Texas region, the Mexico City, a lot of Spurs fans all over the place. There's some in California too. Wherever you're watching this right now in the world, right? Plenty of international amigos, right? When I used to go live all the time and say, "What's up, my international amigos of Spurs Nation?" That's true. So shout out to you guys, man. It's been a great preseason so far. Very interested to see how it plays out, and just can't really wait to see how good we're gonna be. This team can be something very different. Like when the league went small ball and the Warriors like doubled down on that def lineup and they changed the game. Well, we're not gonna change the game for everyone because not everyone has a Victor Wembanyama, but the things that we're seeing now, special, never really been seen before, and to create something new in a game that has such a historic value, historic reputation, and it's evolved over the years. But to see one player come in and drastically, change the landscape of an organization, of a culture, of a city, and the game itself is very, very impressive. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for watching. I know I haven't been on in a long time. If you do care where I've been getting my master's degree. I've been spending this past year do that. So at the end of last season, I had to stop recording and stuff like that to put time into that. I will be finishing that here in December, and I'm graduating with a degree in sports management. So my intentions are to eventually join some basketball operations and player development and roster analysis, kind of like what I do here. And it's getting very hard to get film, to break down film on this channel. It's something I really wish I can do for you guys, but because of the time it takes and because of the unavailability of the footage that I can't record a lot of stuff anymore. Those might have to might have to pivot on those somehow. But thank you guys for watching, subscribing. I'm Rob Trejo Jr., and this has been analysis. Mid-preseason analysis of the San Antonio Spurs roster, post Victor Wembanyama. Go Spurs, go.